Hello, everyone. We are welcoming Joshua Shaffer to the show. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Pretty good, or also known as the Disney guy.
Yes, that's what people call me, or just Disney. Especially
Mhm.
at work, they just call me Disney. Some guys
It-
don't even know why; they just call me that because other people do, and they don't even know my first name.
so, so you're not like Disney, Disney here, Disney there.
Well, one guy called me Goofy because he couldn't remember the nickname everybody called me. So I work in construction, and we have a lot of laborers that we work with, and some of them English is the second language, and so they have like thick accents. And he was calling me, "Hey, Goofy," but I was like not near him, and then he said Mickey Mouse, and then the other guy's like, "It's Disney," and then he's like, "Oh, Disney," and then he tries to laugh like Mickey Mouse does.
Oh,
Yeah, it's so funny. But some of them they don't even know how like why that's my nickname. It's on my hard hat now, but
Disney. So you've just got Disney written across your hat.
well, it's on the back. The front of it has the union that I'm a part of, and then I have like some Mickey Mouse construction stickers that I designed and had made up to hand out.
Ooh.
So and guys like, "Oh, do you have any stickers?" And then they started calling it the Disney Club. Yeah, these guys we're a part of the Disney Club because we all have matching stickers. And I was like, "Yeah, that's my club."
So you don't just make pins; you make stickers as well.
Yeah, it's the same way to do the artwork, except I just send it to a sticker company and it's done in a week and it's way cheaper than making pins. But the stickers I hand out at work. I don't like sell them because they're just small little stickers.
What kind of stickers are there? Like the actual like
Um,
Disney.
do I think thought I had one sitting here. My first sticker, I handed them all out, and then I didn't have any. I made another batch, and I don't have any in here. I handed them all out, and then I had another batch, and then I handed those all out. So I handed out 200 stickers. Well, so I'm part of the local 3 operating engineers union, and I get sent up to what we call the ranch up by Sacramento. It's actually in Slough House, and they do training there on how to operate equipment. Or in my case, I'm working to be a grade engineer, or a grade setter, but it's an apprenticeship program. So like I'm on level 3 apprentice, and I have to get up to 5, and then I become a journeyman, and then that's when I get full pay. But when I was up in class, there's like 54 students that first time I was there, and I designed it while I was doing that 6-week class. And I just handed a bunch out to like all of the students, and it's a grade setter Mickey Mouse. So he has like an eye level that we use, and then a collapsible ruler, and then we put stakes in the ground and write on it, how much dirt to fill or to cut. And we use lasers and GPS to figure out pad elevations and dimensions so that we could build house pads or roads or whatever we're working on. And like right now, our project, we're working in Sassoon at the Potrero Hills landfill, making it bigger because they filled up the hills with garbage.
I think we froze there. We'll come back in a second. Sorry about that, everyone. There's a little technical difficulty. Well,
Did I lose you?
yeah,
I
yeah.
lost you for a
Just for a
second.
second, there's just a little delay.
So the company came in to put in the plastic liner, so we're taking a break from that job, and then we'll go back when they're done to put pipes in the ground and stuff like that. But
Okay.
that's what the stickers are for. And I used to work at the refinery in Martinez. It was Marathon, and they shut down during COVID. They decided to shut down the refinery and laid off 720 people, and I was one of them. But I made an operator Mickey sticker, and I handed those out for people to put on their hard hats, and that's how I got into the stickers. So I've only done 4 because I did some for Heroes of Extinction too.
Ooh, yeah, we'll talk
Yeah,
about that in a
which I'll
second
talk
too.
about. Yeah, yeah.
How did you get into? Because like I'm amazed at your pins are just so cool. How did you get into making the stickers and the pins and
Well,
everything?
it started with my book first. So back in 2001 is actually when I started going to Disneyland. I had been once in the 90s and then once in 1983, and those were the only times I went. I don't really remember what went on when I went there. Like I don't have really any memories from those trips. But in 2001 I started going, and I got my first season pass, and I started going all the time. Now before this, I've been a huge fun fact guy. Like, oh, that's a fun fact about animals or science or, anything. But then in 2006 I started learning Disney fun facts. And when I would go to the parks, I would print up a list of my fun facts that I had learned about different attractions and behind the scenes stuff and history, and I would take it with me. And people just said, you need to just make this into a book. And so I added more information. I added like how to save money and what's some of the fast pass usage. Like people like, you should have this section in your book. And originally it was just attraction and lands fun facts, no history, and the history of the ticket prices and the amount of people that went to the park and how many people died in Disneyland and all that stuff. And so I what I did was I printed it out. It was 67 pages, and I got these little skinny binders, and I put them in clear slips, and I sold them on eBay. I sold 13 of them, and I got feedback from it. People liked it. They wanted more information. So that's when I started expanding more, going to the park with infants and whatever. So I was like, someone's like, you need to just have this published as a book. So I spent more time writing it, and it got published in October 2010. That was my first edition. That was 210 pages, and there was about 1,000 fun facts in that book. And then for years, I would go to book signings. I'd been to Barnes and Noble. I got invited to be a speaker at the Golden Gate Disneyana Club. Just tons of events, and the Disneyana down in Anaheim, they have their events down there, and I would have a booth, and I would sell my books down there and meet tons of people. But then I started working on another edition. So I wanted more. Now I had more time. Now I'm learning more things. I'm meeting more people. I'm doing more interviews. And now, because back when I started in 2006 doing research, the internet had only been around for 7, maybe 8 years. So like websites with tons of information weren't really a thing yet. But then all of a sudden, websites are showing up all over the place. I mean, Facebook wasn't even around. MySpace was. I used to have a live journal and a Blurty back in the early 2000s, and I would post fun facts on there about science and animals and movies and stuff like that. And now there's like behind the scenes footage on DVDs, and you can watch interviews, because when I started writing my book, VHS tapes were still coming out. Bambi 2 was the last Disney VHS to be released, and that was 2006. So like it was still, yeah. Well, technically it was Cars, but it was a limited of like 100 of them, and only people who were part of a Disney club got them. So it was a very limited release. So they don't really count it as a VHS release, because it wasn't an actual release like Bambi 2 was, where it was in stores and stuff. But started learning a lot more, and I was already meeting Disney people, Disney Imagineers, animators, directors, and stuff like that. So I started working on my second edition, and it would just be like a little bit here and there. And in 2016, I was interviewed on the Sweep Spot podcast, if you've heard of them.
Yeah.
They were Disney custodians, and they were Disney sweepers, and so they call it the Sweep Spot. And they interviewed me, and I got an email from them asking if I wanted to share their booth at the D23 Expo in 2017. And it was 7 months later. And I was like, yeah, I do. I need to get my new book done. So I worked every single night for 7 months. I wrote 1/3 of the book. So this is the second edition. You can't see it because it colors my background.
Blend into the background, yeah.
There we go. It's this thick. It's 700 pages.
Ooh.
But I spent 7 months writing the last 1/3 of it. And it's not written like a chapter book. It's more like a reference book. It's like an encyclopedia where you can just look things up and jump around, and it doesn't follow a certain like chronology. You don't have to like start at the beginning and work your way to the end. So when I say like I wrote 1/3 of it, it was like pieces jumping around throughout the book. And I got home from work got a cup of coffee, and it was my last night. Next day, had to send out the PDF to my publisher. And I stayed up all night and converted it from Microsoft Word to PDF. And then I'd have to go down the PDF. Oh, a picture moved when it's saved and it's like up here now. So I got to redo it. Then I had to go through it again. Oh, this is out. Oh, I found a mistake. Oh, and I did have the book proofread, and the person who proofread it, she did the whole thing in 2 weeks and 700 pages. It's like 450,000 words. And I was sending her chunks of it at a time. So it's not like, here's the whole book. It was like, this stuff, like this section needs to be proofread, and she would proof it. And then we use different color highlights and stuff like that. And if there was changes that needed to be made or whatever. And that night, I finally got it converted, and I sent it to my publisher, and then my alarm clock went off on my phone to go back to work. That's how long I was up doing it. So I had to put my work clothes back on. At that time, I was working at an animal shelter. So I had to go in and clean cat cages and deal with dogs and stuff when I was really tired.
Do you remember that day just like trudging
It
through?
was just, and it's not I've done that before where like I didn't go to bed at all the night before. Usually it was from trips coming back from Disneyland. Like I would drive all night long, drop my wife off at home, then go straight to work. Because we did a lot of 2-day trips to Disneyland. We would leave right after work, sleep in our truck parking lot at Food for Less. This is in the early 2000s. Sleep in our truck in the parking lot at Food for Less. Go to Disneyland, check in to our check out of the hotel in the morning, go to Disneyland, stay until like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, whatever. But then we'd end up staying late. Like we'd stay later because we didn't want to leave. And then I'd stay up all night long driving home, drop her off at home, and make it just to work in time for work. Because that was a 7 a.m. shift. So
ouch. Ouch. So the pins and the stickers came after the book?
Yeah. So, well, in 2016, so this was right before it got published, I was like, I wonder, because I started learning about fantasy pins. And I'm like, well, this is really cool. You can get like Pokemon crossed over with Disney, or just, you can dress up Elsa and Anna as steampunk themed. Like I've seen all sorts of stuff. And I was like, I wonder if I can design a pin, because I'm also an artist. Like I do draw every once. Right now I just draw for pins, but it's more of like a side thing that I can do. I'm not like an artist where like, oh, I have to draw all the time or paint. I have a painting sitting next to me that I started with. What medium is that? I forgot, but I started painting it and I just haven't finished it. I'm one of those people. I have ADHD, and so I start a lot of projects and I get into it and then I don't finish and I move on to the next one, which is why it was a huge accomplishment to actually finish my book, because I had started it 7 years before. So I was like, I wonder if I can do this. So I started asking pin people, hey, how do you make these pins? Oh, I'm not going to tell you. You need to figure it out. It's like people seriously won't tell you how they make pins because your competition. And so they don't want to share that information with you. I'm going, what company is doing? Nope, not gonna tell you. So I had to Google a lot of stuff, and I figured it out. I did the artwork, and my first pin was a Zootopia pin. And I had it sent out, and it was made, and it got delivered. And I was like, this is like the coolest thing ever. And I made a PDF file. It's 21 pages long now because I've added to it. Step by step, how to start your own pin company. Making fantasy pins or whatever kind of pins you want to make. So like I've been commissioned to do pins for like the Contra Costa County Health Department, which is just one of their it's like a detective, but he's for the health department. So he's like with a magnifying glass looking at a fork, because that's what the health department does. It's not a Disney character, because technically, yes, the characters are all copyrighted by Disney, but as a fantasy pin maker, like there's thousands and thousands of us that design fantasy pins, and we're just using, it's just fan art, and then we make a design and then we move on to something else. That's how I got into pins. And then my plan was, I'm going to do like one pin per quarter. Like every couple months I'll come out with a new pin. But then I kept coming up with ideas, and then it got down. I've done 130 pin designs since the beginning. Yeah, since 2016, 130. Some of them were commissions for like people's companies, or I did one for the Daddy and Daughter podcast. Disney with Daddy and Daughter podcast. Yeah, that's what it was. And I've done some for people's companies. Heroes of Extinction has one. Like there's just so many that are, and then people were like, hey, can you do one with Stitch crossed over with Harry Potter? And so then I would do their design, their idea, and then I'm like, here you go, and then ship them their pins. And that's how I got into that. So not all of them are like that I sell, like that I have in my shop because they were commissions for somebody else. Or I started doing pin designs with Disney Imagineer Terry Hardin. So she would send me like the artwork, and then I would redraw it as pin art because she would send sketches. And obviously it can't be pencil sketches. Like you have to actually have, when I use Photoshop, I'll scan the picture in and then I'll trace over it with, do you know anything about Photoshop?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Lots.
So I do a 12 by 12, 300 pixel or DPI, 300 DPI square, what's that called? A background, border, whatever. And then I would use, and I would use a size 13 pencil. And then I would trace over it with neon pink because it's a color that it's mostly not going to be in the pin, so I can see all the lines. And then I would change it to dark gray, and then I would color it in like a coloring book. Just tap on the different sections and color them in how you want it to be. And then you do the Pantones, which is the naming of the colors by actual name. And I have a, because what happens is the company may have a different, like you're like, this is like the color purple I want. And then theirs is like way different. So you use this kind of a book.
Oh, okay.
To do the names. And those are the Pantones. Yeah. So like this purple is actually called 2685U. And so if they do 2685U, it'll look exactly like this. Mm-hmm. Which is what I want. And then I send the artwork and they give a quote, and then it takes a couple weeks to make them. But yeah,
it's a universal thing. Yeah. Have you ever physically made a pin? Because I know in college we had what we called freedom pins, where we would get mad at the college and physically make our pins, like put them on our jackets to show them we're pissed off.
No, I've only ever done the artwork.
I've
physically made it because you gotta be able to melt down metal and make mold. Yeah, and that's one of the costs of the pins. Like when they give you a quote, it's like, this is how much it'll be per pin for your type of metal that you want in this size. And then there's a mold fee. And most of the companies keep the mold for in case you want to make more.
Okay. Oh, we lost you. Audio. I don't know what happened.
That's weird. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
That's weird. I didn't even touch anything. My hands are up. Magic, mute me.
Yeah, Disney's like, shh, don't tell her. Unplug him.
But companies won't double charge you for the mold if you have more made. And molds can be anywhere from $80 to $160 depending on the size. And that's just for the mold. Then you got to pay per pin on top of that. If you get a lot of colors, it costs more. If you do anything that like a pin on pin design, which I did for Andrew as the Darth Vader pin. And if you get glitter, somebody commissioned Indiana Mouse. So it's Mickey Mouse dressed as Indiana Jones. And I have him holding the idol, the fertility idol. And it's because it's gold in the movie, there isn't gold paint. So I had it filled with gold glitter.
Oh.
So it's shiny gold. And I didn't realize how inappropriate that statue was until I looked up close pictures of it.
Yes.
It's a fertility statue.
Yeah.
Like she's naked, birthing a child. Like, I didn't realize that's what it was.
Well, I mean, you can barely see it when he's switching.
Yeah, and you can't see, but if you look up still images of it, like then you can, up close pictures. I just thought it was funny. Look, had no idea it looked like this.
if anyone's interested in those pins, you can go and check out your website. I assume the link is up there. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm. I did a commission of a Coco pin for somebody's birthday. It's another one. The shuttle that launched, the one that the dragon shuttle, like someone commissioned a pin for that. All sorts of things. It's weird. Oh, the Relay for Life. It's the Cancer Walk here, Relay for Life on the Delta. I've been doing their pin since 2018, I think. Yeah, 5 years in a row. I've been doing a pin for them every year.
So
And
is
then
it,
I donate my time. They pay for them. I donate the artwork and stuff, and I have them made. And then I have a booth there, and so people will come up and buy the pin, and I'll autograph the back of it. And yeah,
very cool.
fun stuff. It just depends on their theme for the year, and then I'll do a pin design around their theme.
Jerry says hello, by the way. And he
Oh, hi,
loves
Jerry.
your book.
He does. He uses it as a doorstop, actually.
Okay.
That's what he says. Yeah. And if he
Is
needs
it-
to start any fires, while camping, he just rips pages out and start fires,
Get-
which is
get
fine
his-
because I use his DVDs as coasters. So
Get his voice actors to behave.
I met Jerry in 2015 at MouseCon up here in Concord. And it was the first year for MouseCon, and he was my booth neighbor. And we got to talking, and we became best buds that day.
What year was it?
2015.
Ooh, okay. So it's been a couple years.
Yeah, it has been a while. And then he interviewed me for one of his documentaries on, it was The Secrets of Disneyland. And he uses my book as a booster seat for his grandson. Well, that's good because it's so thick. You could sit on it.
I think you'd need a couple of those, but okay.
But he interviewed me for the Secrets of Disneyland Volume 1, and I talked about like the invention of Doritos in Disneyland and some of the stuff on Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah, Doritos were invented in Disneyland in 1964, and it became the first nationally distributed corn chip in 1966, and you could only get them at Disneyland for those 2 years. But the restaurant they were made at was sponsored by Frito-Lay, which is why Disney doesn't own Doritos. Frito-Lay does.
I was wondering about that. I was like, that'd be kind of awkward now that they're selling them.
That's also where you could get Frito boats. Get the
Frito
corn
boats.
chips with chili
Okay. Do
and
they,
cheese
do
on
they
it.
sell anything like that anymore in Disney?
I haven't seen anything like that because Disney doesn't need sponsors really anymore. I know some of the stuff. Arribas Brothers is there in New Orleans Square, right around this corner here.
Like somewhere around there, yeah.
Yeah. But there's it's very few because back then Disney didn't have any money. They needed sponsors for everything. All of the shops had sponsors. That's why they had the Wizard of Bras there. So you could buy underwear in Disneyland, and there was Upjohn Pharmacy, so you could get pharmaceutical stuff. You can get your prescriptions filled in Disneyland because all these people wanted to be there. There was a
And
bank.
live there apparently.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you could do
I-
anything there. They even had a
I-
post office. You could mail out postcards and stuff.
I was recently weirded out by that because I went to Disneyland during Disney, Star Wars,
Mhm.
but I didn't go in. I was just in downtown Disney, and I noticed that you could basically just live there and never go into Disneyland.
Mm-hmm. You can. They have a
Wow.
lot of stuff.
They've got hotels and post office, and yeah, you can still buy your underwear there. I was,
Except Mickey Mouse will be on it.
yeah, but who doesn't want Mickey Mouse on their underwear?
I know. I do. Do I right now? I'm just kidding. I don't know.
What is one of your favorite facts that you found?
I'll say this one because do you know Dave Smith, the Disney archivist? Okay. After he passed away a couple years ago, I looked in my messenger to see what the last thing was that we talked about. I met him because I worked at an animal shelter for 18 years, and his sister was a dog walker volunteer. And she had asked me, it was right after my book came out, it was 2011 or so. Have you ever heard of the Disney Legends program? Of course I have. I have a whole section of it in my book, who received it and when. She's like, my brother's in there. Really? Who's your brother? And she's like, Dave Smith. And I was like, Dave Smith. Oh yeah, he's number 115. I was like, oh, it's cool. And it wasn't for a week. And I was like, whoa, the Dave Smith, Ask Dave, the columnist. I didn't put two and two together of who he was, because it's Dave is a normal name and Smith is another normal last name. It didn't stand out. So I was like, whoa, your brother's Dave Smith? And she's like, yeah. She's like, oh, I'll have to invite you over for dinner sometime when he comes up to visit, because she lives up here in my county. and Walnut Creek.
Mhm.
And I never got to go over there because she stopped being a volunteer there. And actually, after his passing, she was the one that went to Disneyland to accept. Was it a window? I think it was the window for Main Street, and she was the one that did the acceptance speech. And I was like, "Hey, it's Jean, the dog walker. Like, I know her." So I look back, and I'd messaged him questions every once in a while, and he put a copy of my first book in the Disney archives. So it is there. I don't know if my second one is, but my first one is. And my message to him was, "Hey, I heard that there were real alligators outside of the Jungle Cruise, but I can't find any information about it other than this tiny little bitty fun fact book that has font size 25 used in the book, like huge old letters, and they're like a sentence or too long." And I'm like, this is 100 fun facts, but it's like one per page, and it's huge. It's very tiny compared to my book. Mine's bigger. And I saw it in there, but I couldn't find any supporting information anywhere. I'm like, where did they get this information from? So I messaged him, "Hey, was it true?" And he says, "Yes, I've seen footage." Because what happened was the alligators busted out of their pen and got into the waters of the Jungle Cruise, and they had to drain the water out to catch the alligators. And then I ended up finding, and then years later, because the internet got bigger, years later, which was, I don't know, maybe a year or two ago, I found an article that talked about alligator is an alligator farm that's over by Knott's Berry. And they had rented the alligators from there as like a, like a promo to like, "Hey, Jungle Cruise, look, real alligators." But there's like only some like home footage of them because it was for a brief time. And that's like the only thing he saw of them because it was just for a small amount of time. And they realized, oh, this is dangerous. These are real. They're not animatronic alligators made by Robert Mady, the guy who made the Jaws shark. That's another fun fact. Cool. And the shark's name was Bruce. I don't know if you know that either. That's how Bruce from Finding Nemo got his name, after the Jaws mechanical shark.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah, they just referred to him as Bruce, the mechanical shark, because that was Steven Spielberg's ex-wife's divorce lawyer's name.
That's awesome.
Sometimes when I'm thinking about the old movies, I get George Lucas and Steven Spielberg mixed up on who the directors were.
I mean,
sometimes
I've heard that you can find one, you can find the other.
Well, George and Steven both did. Steven and I are on first name basis. I don't know if you know that. George Lucas and Steven Spielberg did Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. So like, they have done stuff together, but I just get them mixed up with the older stuff.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
But I think that's one of my more interesting ones, only because I had to verify it through Dave Smith. But if someone's like, "What's your favorite fun fact?" I'm like, I can't think of any right now. But if we're talking about a thing, then I'm like, oh, there's a fun fact, to go along with that attraction or that part. Or like, if you look behind me on the posts here, holding up the second floor balcony, they're called Romeo spikes. There's actually little spikes on them. They're called Romeo spikes, and they used to put those on balcony poles so young men wouldn't climb them at night to visit daughters, because they were spikes. It's like putting barbed wire around your house, except they're called Romeo spikes.
Keep your daughter a little more innocent. Yeah.
And also behind me, I don't know if you could see on this picture, there was fire insurance plaques on all these walls. And people used to purchase homeowners fire insurance, and the firefighters, if they were like putting out a building and they saw the plaque, they would put your building out first because you pay for insurance and the other house doesn't.
Oh.
Yeah, but there's like 8 different ones around New Orleans Square. I think it's 8. But I was talking about it in Jerry's last documentary about New Orleans Square. So if you want to learn about New Orleans Square, watch that one.
The one that I saw recently was are you aware of the TikTok? There's a famous video about Liberty Square. And they're talking about
it was going to be in Disneyland.
Yeah.
Well, you can look up the if you Google search it, you can find the Imagineers, designs for it, like the drawings. It was going to be behind Main Street Main Street and Space Mountain before Space
Okay.
Mountain was there. And then they ended up just doing that idea in Disney World.
Mhm.
And then they were also going to put the Roger Rabbit land behind Main Street between that and Space Mountain. There was going to be like 2 attractions in there, which is such a small space. If you look at it from Google Earth, it's just a tiny little space.
Big old square.
And then they ended up not doing it. I don't know why. Probably because I know Roger Rabbit's like, it's a popular movie, but like, is it enough to maintain a land? Because they have Roger Rabbit's Cartoon Spin, you know, in Toontown, but like, and Toontown's from the movie also. But how many kids have seen Roger Rabbit? Like, that was what, 1988? Like,
I wouldn't
kids
show children
kids don't
Roger
watch
Rabbit.
movies. Well, I just recently learned this, and I don't know why I didn't figure it out myself, but a lot of younger people nowadays don't know any of the older stuff, like The Goonies or Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, or any of the other old movies or TV shows that we used to watch growing up, or even, you know, because I've seen Mary Poppins, like that came out in 1964, but
Mhm.
kids these days won't watch a movie that came out in the 80s or 90s because they don't have time, because there's more new content created now that if you were to just sit down and watch TV 24 hours a day, you couldn't keep up with what's being created right now, let alone watching old stuff. I mean, if you look at Disney's roster for, you know, their Pixar, Marvel, the now all the Fox stuff, like they have movies and TV series coming out on Disney Plus all the time.
Yeah.
It's a constant flow of content. Like I can't even keep up with all this stuff that's because I'm trying to write, because I'm working on a book trilogy right now,
Ooh.
and it's just movie fun facts. So it's not Disneyland, because this book right here, this is the Disneyland Resort. So it has California Adventure and Disneyland and Downtown Disney and the Disney hotels. It has the largest printed listing of the hidden Mickeys. There's 419 of them. Unfortunately, some of them changed because they changed Paradise Pier to Pixar Pier. So the hidden Mickeys that were there before are gone because they rethemed everything. But which the weekend that my book came out is when they announced they were changing it, because they
Oh,
announced it at D23, and that's when I was like, "Hey, my book's out. We're gonna change this to Pixar Pier." Man, I just wrote this list. I had to walk around and take pictures of them all, and
they're yeah. Oh, I'm sure, and especially with their announcing that all this stuff is going to change about the park, you're going to be busy for a while.
very busy. I'm gonna work on a 3rd edition like down the line, because the book trilogy I'm doing right now, I'm actually writing it as one big book, and then I'm chopping it into 3. It's gonna have a section for Marvel, Pixar, Walt Disney Animation, the Disney princesses, live action. Pirates of the Caribbean gets its own section just because it's one of my favorites. I actually have my wedding ring has the skull. You can't see it. It has the Jolly Roger engraved on it.
I almost want to back up here for a second. Oops, I can't. I've got a Jack Harkness on behind me that's like kind of hidden.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I agree. Pirates. What do you
It's one of my
any
favorite franchises.
any fun facts about pirates?
Pirates the movie or the ride?
Either one.
Sorry, attraction. Let's see.
Attraction.
So there are certain scenes in the movie, where Orlando Bloom, you know, is doing his sword fight
Mhm.
in the blacksmith shop, and you can see the tattoo on his wrist that he got when he filmed Lord of the Rings, because all of them got the same tattoo, and it's in Elvish, and what does it say? Fellowship? I
Yeah,
can't
I
remember
think
what it says, but all of them got the tattoo except for John Rice Davies. He didn't want to do it, so his stunt double got the tattoo because he was the one who played Gimli,
yeah.
and he's the only one that didn't get it. But all of them got the same tattoo, different parts of their body. So like Elijah Wood has it, Sean Astin, they all
Mhm.
have the same tattoo. But every once in a while, you can see it during the sword fight because it wasn't covered up very well. Like his sleeve slid down.
That's pretty cool. What about the ride? Anything cool about the ride?
Gosh. Okay, so this is one of my favorite rides, that and Haunted Mansion. So between the two of them, they have over 40 pages in my book, just the two of them. Everybody knows that the attraction was going to be made a walkthrough originally. They were going to be figurines, animatronic figures, and wax and there were going to be scenes that you walk through and you see, and then you go to the next room and you see different pirate scenes. And a lot of them they were designed by Mark Davis, who became an Imagineer in 1963 when he joined to design funny scenes for the Jungle Cruise and the elephant pool. Bathing pool, that was his first thing to do in Imagineering, was the elephant pool, which they added. Used to be a gazebo there where New Orleans Square is now, because it's before New Orleans Square was built, and there used to be a gazebo. Did I say jacuzzi? I meant gazebo. It's because gazebos hold jacuzzis.
Yeah.
There was a gazebo there and a little park area, and then they expanded out the Jungle Cruise and put the elephant pool there. But he came up with all these ideas of funny things, which are like, if you look up concept art, you'll see these scenes with pirates, and you're like, that's not on the ride. Well, it was originally going to be when it was a walkthrough. Well, after the World's Fair, they had It's a Small World, and they were on boats. And Walt came back and he's like, I want this to be a boat ride. And the Imagineers are like, there's no room. We're in the basement, and it's already like they already had it partially built. So they had to build underneath the train tracks. So the transition tunnel that you go through, where you go through the fog screen, well, it doesn't have that anymore. I haven't been on it since they changed stuff.
I was there in like 2018, 2008, and there was like a fog screen, and and you like, it was Davy Jones, just as the movie came out, and he was like laughing at you.
And then they had Blackbeard would show up every once in a while, but now it's gone, and now they have a pirate that's holding a treasure chest, and as you pass by him, he turns into a skeleton.
Oh,
it's a mirrored effect. So there's a mirror going to split down the character. This half of it's built out a skeleton. This half is built out the pirate. And then you see the reflection, and it's mirrored what it looks like. So if you see the mirror of this face, it'll be my other half of face. Yeah. And then when you're on this side, skeleton, it'll be the other half will be skeleton. And as you pass by, he turns into skeleton. That's how it is now. Yeah. But that spot goes, you're actually going underneath the train tracks out of the park into a show building. Then when you come back into the park under the train tracks, that's underneath the burning city where they have like that chair hanging, and there's like the creaking boards. You're back under the train tracks, and then you go up the lift into the where you depart. And that where they built the show building was another land. It was called Holiday Land. It was called Holiday Land. And they had a huge tent there, which was the circus tent from Mickey Mouse's Circus. That was the shortest lived attraction. I believe it was 28 days, 26 days that was in the park. Annette Funicello was in it. She was dressed as Tinkerbell. They did killer animals, and it was an animal circus. They had animals there, and then they decided to shut it down, and these tents were expensive. They're like 10 grand. So they didn't want to get rid of the tents. So they put them outside, and they made a picnic area. You had tents. There was a baseball diamond, so you could play baseball at Disneyland. And then they removed that to put in a show building, and then they took out a ton of stuff to make New Orleans Square.
So they got rid of a lot of fun stuff.
They did. Well, I mean, it's like, it's cool to think back at it, but if you go back and like, well, it's a picnic area and baseball diamond. Like, we want to go on rides. Like, that's what we're here for. Yeah. Well, and if you think about it, like some of the rides now, like they're not as impressive to us as they were for people back then. People thought that Disney had got the technology to shrink people with inner space, Adventures Through Inner Space. Mm-hmm. When you go inside the snowflake, which is where Star Tours is now. Mm-hmm. People actually thought that Disney learned how to shrink people and re-enlarge them. Nobody's going to think that now. But they just thought Disney had like all this future technology because they were doing things like making animatronic Abraham Lincolns, and which was their first one. The model was designed by Bob Gurr, who also designed the Autopia cars and the Doom buggies and the monorail and anything in Disneyland that moves. Bob Gurr made it.
Is Autopia still there?
Autopia cars, yeah. Well, as far as I know, I don't think it's gone.
I think it's. Someone said it was Cars now. It wasn't. It's not Autopia anymore. Or
like
something
Cars,
like that.
Cars, like Pixar Cars.
Yeah.
No, people thought that's what they were going to do, but then they built Cars Land in California Adventure, and they have the Radiator Springs Racers there.
Okay.
Yeah, I had dinner with Bob Gurr up here the day before MouseCon. I met him at a couple of different conventions like D23 and stuff. Mm-hmm. He's a really cool guy. He has a lot of stories to tell. lots and lots of
I
stories.
bet. I bet.
Like about when he was working on the Matterhorn bobsleds, was the very first cylindrical steel roller coaster ever. The rails are actually have they're pressurized with air, so if there's a crack in the rail, the pressure drops and they'll know there's a crack somewhere, and then they can inspect it. But he was never really good at math or geometry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was never really good at it, so he had to buy a math book to learn how to do with angles and speeds to go up and around curves and stuff. So he learned that to design the Matterhorn.
That's interesting because there is like a feeling that you get when you're in the Matterhorn where it feels kind of cold and you feel kind of like pressure on you. So that
Mm-hmm.
must be that must be where it drops.
Yeah, yeah. There's the ride inside the Matterhorn, the actual tracks themselves only go up about 2/3 of the way. The whole top half is just like a break area where they have the basketball hoop.
Oh, I've
Like
heard about
everybody's
the
like, there's a
basketball.
basketball hoop in the top of the Matterhorn. There's actually pictures of or video footage of Bob Gurr shooting a hoop for this interview he did up there, and a ping pong table. Let me tell you the story about the ping pong table. So back in 2015, the week before I met Jerry, I got an email from Gina Rock, and she's like, "How did you hear about me being Tinkerbell?" I had just written a blog about all the Tinkerbells of Disneyland, the ones that flew across the castle for the fireworks. There's Tiny Klein, Mimi Zerbini, Judy Kay, and then Gina Rock. Period. That's all it said. It didn't say anything about her or anything like that because there's not a lot of information out there about her. I said, "Oh, well, I'm a Disney historian. It's a book, and I just know. I just know it." And she's like, "Oh, okay. Hey, I want you to write an article about what I'm doing now." Okay. Like, well, what are you doing now? So we set up an interview time and I interviewed her, and she got a job where her company gets contracted by FEMA to go to natural disaster sites to assess property damage. And her first job in 2005, when she retired from Tinkerbell, was Hurricane Katrina. And so she went there to assess property damage. And the article was published in the Disneyana newsletter of Southern California. And then she emailed me again in 2016 and said, "I want you to be my manager." And I was like, "What do you mean? Like, I don't know how to be a manager." And she said, "Well, I want you to, get me on podcasts and stuff like that." Okay, so I created a website for her. I had pictures printed. I sent them to her because she was living on the East Coast at the time, and she signed them and sent them back to me. And I was selling them for her on Etsy and through her website. And I got her on. She's been on quite a few podcasts talking about her time as Tinkerbell, but also as a circus aerialist. So she used to be in Ringling Brothers, Circus, the Paul K Circus in Thailand, if I remember right. And that's how she heard about Tinkerbell, because not other than seeing her in the park, because she's from Southern California.
Yeah.
Paul K Circus. Paul K is the ex-husband of Judy K, who was Tinkerbell flying in Disneyland for 12 years. Well, 7 years before she started flying, Gina started flying in 1983. They quit flying Tinkerbell, and then they started the revamp to have New Fantasyland because they reopened it in 1983. And so she's like, how did your wife become Tinkerbell? And so they talked about it. And so she went to Disneyland when she got back to the States. "Hey, are you looking for a new Tinkerbell?" And they said, we are. And she's like, "I was a circus aerialist and I want to be Tinkerbell." And so like, "Okay, cool. Fill this paperwork out. Okay, thanks. Bye." And she didn't hear anything for 6 months. And then out of the blue, they're like, "Okay, you can start work now." So her first time to fly off the mountain was the morning of her first flight. And it was before the park opened. And she screamed because it's 180 feet up. Zip lining from the Matterhorn across the castle, landing in the mattress. Because they still have this giant mattress that the cast members hold on to. And she, right before she hits, she does a shoulder roll because she learned how to do this stuff as an aerialist in the circus, because she used to swing trapeze and ride an elephant. Elephant's her favorite animal. She used to ride elephants, and she made friends with the elephant by bringing a loaf of bread every day and stuff. But she has a lot of stories about the circus. And oh, you a wrestling fan, like WWF from the 80s?
A little bit. I
You know,
know
like
a little
Hulk
bit.
Hogan and
Yeah.
Macho Man Randy Savage. Do you know who Roddy Piper is?
Oh yeah.
Okay, she used to date him.
Oh.
Yeah,
Whoa.
and I didn't know that until she was on a podcast that talks about wrestling. I got her on this random wrestling podcast, and she used to date him, and she used to hang out on the set of Taxi,
Hmm.
and she met Andy Kaufman and went on a date with him,
Hmm.
and she met Tony Danza, and she's a crazy life. Like, she's done all these things, and she met Tom Hanks backstage, and this was in the 80s, so this was after Tom Hanks big, and this was before Turner and Hooch.
Hmm.
Like, and she's met so many people. She used to also have a talent agency called Worldwide Acts, and she would hire people to do Disney events. Like, if a movie, like when Aladdin came out, she would hire people to do sword swallowing or juggling or magic tricks or people to entertain for these special events for all the people wearing suits, the bigwigs. And so she did a lot of booking of talent. And so that was her side gig. So flying as Tinkerbell, she went to the park, they get her in costume, they take her up to the Matterhorn, throw her off, catch her, take her out, she'd take the costume off, and she would leave.
Was she on wires at all?
She was
No.
on a zip. No, she learned
Okay.
how to fly. She flap her arm. No, she was on a zip line. There was
Okay.
a So sometimes, like, there's a handbrake on it. So they
Hmm.
would tighten it down or loosen it depending on how windy it was.
Hmm.
And one time it was too tight because the previous night it wasn't as windy, and she ended up stopping before she got to the end, and people could still see her feet. So she had to stay in the Tinkerbell pose. You have to have good core muscles.
Yeah.
You had to stay in the pose, and then she had to do this to pull herself in on the table.
Because I know that they have a policy that every character has to stay in character as long as a guest can see
Mhm.
you.
Yes.
And yeah, they have it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. And because she only flew, she wasn't a meet and greet character. So people didn't actually go, "Hey, Tinkerbell, we want to take a picture with you." She wasn't that. She only
Hmm.
ziplined and then would leave. Her hair was actually her helmet. The hair was on
Oh.
the helmet for safety reasons, so
Hmm.
she doesn't hit her head. And the wings were actually attached to the harness that they would strap on her to tie her to the zip line.
Oh.
And
I'm
her
trying.
little shoes had little light up baubles on them at one point as technology progressed, and then they would flash lights, and then her dress would have these little mirrors sewed all over it so that the spotlight would reflect off of it and make it look shiny.
Cool.
Yeah, so
I'm
if you want to see her website, it's flyingtinkerbell.org.
flyingtinkerbell.org. Very cool. Because I'm trying to picture some kid watching and Tinkerbell scream across.
If she was coming in too fast, she would bark. She'd
Okay.
bark like a dog so that the cast members were like, "Oh, she's coming in fast." And they would hold onto the mattress and they would be prepared. And then some cast members would, like when she'd fly, look, "Let's go watch her crash." And then they would go to Fantasyland and go up and watch her crash into the mattress.
Yeah. Oh, I heard recently too that they've had this stuff for years about throwing characters and whatnot because they just had I guess there was a debacle about throwing Spider-Man, but that's luckily an animatronic. But I
Yeah, I
guess
saw him hit the side of the building. I saw that. Yeah, and that's new. The robot that holds the
oops,
poses. Yeah.
oops.
So yeah, she's ziplined down. So when she retired in 2005, she trained 3 girls to replace her, and
Mhm.
that's when they started the new fireworks with Julie Andrews, the 50th anniversary, and Tinkerbell could go back and forth and up and down on a pulley, and she would
Mhm.
fly like this and zip line around. With her, it was just zip line. There was
Yeah,
no back and forth and
straight.
up and down. And so that's when she decided to leave and pursue her next job. Because when she started in 1983, she was 27.
Mhm.
So she was already, not a 18-year-old. So, and then she flew for 21 and a half years.
Jerry wants to know if Gina's hands got tired from flapping them.
Yes, they did.
We
What
have
was
a
I talking about before I got on the
yeah, all right.
Tinkerbell?
I
Oh,
can't remember my question.
my book. So my new one. I'm writing it as one book, and I'm splitting it. We started talking about pirates. That's what it was.
Pirates, yeah.
Each book's going to have a section for all of those, but each
Mhm.
section is also going to have all the movies. So if you go to Walt Disney Animation and you look up Zootopia, I have 309 fun facts for Zootopia. So each book's going to have 103 fun facts, and they're all different. So you can get either volume of the 3 volumes, and you'll get every movie, but they're all different fun facts from the previous books. And I decided just recently that I'm stopping at 2022 right now with the writing, because so much stuff Disney is releasing. There's no way I can write about all this new stuff when I'm trying to write about the old stuff. I already have 7,800 fun facts, and it's already 900 pages long.
Yeah.
And it's going to be split into 3. So like, that's what I'm doing. I've been writing about Iron Man all day. It's on my other screen right here.
I think they're even threatening to release stuff that's going to go out to 2027 at this point.
Well,
by D23.
Avatar already has, that they'll probably announce Avatar at D23, but they already have, 5. There's 5 of them in pre-production. I mean, they haven't started production, but they're already planned out, but it's been that way for years. So like, I wasn't surprised when number 2 came out, because I already knew years ago that they were making a second one, which I'm excited to go see.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know. It's been since 2009 that we've been waiting for another Avatar. So
yep. What happened was J.K. Rowling went to Disney, and she's like, "Hey, do you want to have Harry Potter in your parks?" This is from what I understand from the articles and stuff. She went to Disney and said, "Hey, do you want Harry Potter in Disney World?" And Disney's like, "Yes, we do. Disney or Harry Potter's, you're a very popular character. We can make tons of money." And she's like, "Okay, I want to maintain creative control over my characters. Like I want to be able to say what does and doesn't happen, what things you want to approve stuff." And they're like, "Oh, no, we don't want to do that." And she's like, "Okay, bye." And she left and went to Universal Studios. "Hey, I want to have Harry Potter in your parks." And they're like, "Please do, come on in." And she's like, "I want to have creative control." "Oh, no, you can have all the creative control you want, because we're going to make millions of dollars off of this deal with you." And Disney's like, "We messed up. What's a popular movie right now? Avatar. Let's buy Avatar and then make Pandora and open it 11 years after the movie came out." And everybody's like, "What's Avatar? Is he an airbender? Like, what's going on?" No, not that Avatar. I mean,
the
that's
other
what
Avatar,
I thought it was when I saw Avatar coming out. I was like, "Yay, it's a movie about Avatar." No, totally different. This one has blue people.
Yeah. blue people that fly. Yeah.
So that's what I heard. That's why Disney ended up with this random movie from 2009 with just the rights to the parks. They didn't have movie rights because that's Fox, but now they own Fox. So now they own Avatar.
That's probably the reason why they're like, we just got to buy Fox.
It was the biggest movie of all time. It made the most money out of any movie ever until Endgame came out. But the only reason why Avengers Endgame beat it was because they re-released it with extra footage down the line, and then it beat Avatar. But now, before this comes out, they're going to be re-releasing Avatar again, because back in 2009 they re-released Avatar like 6 months later, because then I saw it again in 3D because it was really good, and they made more money. So now they're going to release it again, and it should be able to pass Avengers Endgame, and then Endgame won't be in the top spot. It will have only held that title for 4 years.
Who knows? I think Wakanda's going to beat everyone, because we're all, we miss Chadwick. So that's just me.
No. That trailer looks awesome. I'm looking forward to that movie too. I was curious how they were going to go with it, because like in the comics, it's Shuri, his sister, takes over the Black Panther
in the comics, but we know Disney does not stick to the comics.
A lot of the stuff they follow, though, so there's different Earths and storylines in the Marvel universe, and Earth 616 is what the MCU follows a lot of, and the MCU Marvel universe is where Earth 19999999? I think
something
it is.
Like,
yeah. So, but we follow closely with Earth 616 in the comics. So a lot of the spin-off comics that happen with different realities or whatever isn't part of it, if that makes any sense. Comics get confusing because I've been writing a lot about them in my Marvel section, which is just about to hit 1,000 fun facts just for the Marvels.
I'm a huge Loki fan too, and I'm sort of like, they're not following my Enchantress, thing, and I'm like, bring her back. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I saw your Throg.
Throg. I just got Throg. He's right behind me right now. But I'm sort of, I'm a little disappointed.
I meant pop figure. I said Pog. That's from the 90s.
Funko Pop. Throg is the character, but technically he's not Throg. They're not saying Throg at the moment
No.
because I think they're going to try and do something with it later. That's the theory.
But Chris Hemsworth voiced him,
Hmm.
so
But they're not. They're calling it the Frog of Thunder when they released the Funko.
yeah, I know that's weird. I don't know if it had to do with copyright stuff, but I
Yeah,
don't know. But
yeah.
some of that stuff is kind of touchy because, like, they couldn't use the word mutants in the MCU because that's an X-Men thing, and that's
It-
a Fox thing. But now they bought Fox,
yeah,
and so
yeah.
Miss Marvel has the first mention of the word mutant in
Mutant.
the MCU. And with all these shows, you have to watch the Disney Plus shows because they're part of the MCU. You need to see what happens in them to be able to get the movies. Like, unless you watch Falcon and Winter Soldier, you're
Yeah.
you're not gonna understand, the next Captain America movie, which they just announced at that comic convention.
I did you. I'm I'm excited for that. But anyway, we could talk about this all day.
Yeah.
In the comics, we have favorite Disney live action film and animated film, and go and why. Why and go.
Oh, favorite Disney live action film and animated film, Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't know. I just really like
Johnny.
Jack Sparrow. Was so funny. I dressed up as him and got kicked out of Disneyland in 2007. I was there with one of your previous guests, Tia.
Mhm.
I was there with her, and the movie had just come out, and they were filming a commercial on the Pirates Lair on Tom Sawyer Island because they just opened it. And so, like, we made sure we were in the background of a bunch of the shots to see if we'd end up in the commercial. I don't ever know if we were because I didn't have cable, but I got into the park dressed as Jack Sparrow, and this was before I knew you can go in. I dressed as characters. I made it through security, and then security followed me in the park, and like, you can't come in dressed like that. So I had to take part of my costume off, put it back in my car. I had to go back out to my car. Got back in the park, and I left, like, I had the hair on and the hat. I bought those in the park. Well,
Yeah.
we don't intend for people to buy them and put them all together and wear them. That's what they told me. So I took off my pirate shirt because I did have a Jack Sparrow costume that I got at a costume store.
Mhm.
But the hat and stuff, and then some other things that I had the coin, that they used in the first movie,
Yeah.
the treasure, and I had that as a necklace, and I got that in pieces of 8, which is right over here. Where is it? Down here. And so then I had to take part of my costume off, and yeah, that was when I got kicked out of Disneyland. But I got to come back in, but I had to take part of my costume off. But that's why I like Pirates of the Caribbean. Animated film is so tough. There's so many. If I had to pick, like, if it's from Walt Disney Animation, I like Zootopia a lot, which is why it was my first pin. I wanted to be a police officer when I was younger but it was like, I actually went to the police academy and got certified to be a community service officer. And that's how I was going to get into the police department and then work my way up to be an officer. But then I found out animal control was hiring, and that's where I ended up working for 18 years. And I decided not to pursue police anymore. And I liked rabbits, and then there was a bunny cop, and it was just, the animation was just awesome. And I really liked it. And I don't know. I like that. Oh, and I really like Moana too. Like the story and this music and stuff. It's one of the few movies I have the full soundtrack in my phone.
Is she your favorite princess?
No, I like Merida.
Merida.
I don't know. It's the accent, and she's got a bow and arrow, and she's a redhead. My ex is a redhead. Both of my exes are redheads.
She don't need no man. That's what I loved about her. She didn't
Yeah,
need no man.
and then battling a bear, Mordu.
Yeah.
Which is funny because if you think about it, like, Mordu he's not the villain of the movie. He's an antagonist. Like, yeah, he's a hurdle that they have to get by, and he tries to kill him at the end, but the movie wasn't set up because of Mordu. Like, everything didn't happen because of Mordu. Like, it was all gonna just happen. She went to the witch to get, oh, spoiler alert. She went to the witch to get a spell for her mom. That all happened. Mordu just happens to also exist. And then, at the end, he tries to kill her, but that's it. And then tries to catch her that time she goes into his cave when she falls through.
If you took Mordu out, you'd probably have the same movie, basically.
Yeah, you would have the same movie, like removing Indiana Jones from the Raiders of the Lost Ark. They would all still happen the same way.
Pretty much.
Yeah, but then Merida doesn't even defeat Mordu. Her mom does.
Hmm.
By
I
crushing
know.
him.
I
Yeah.
mean, and she's really the first movie that went along with the your family is traumatizing. You deal with it.
Well,
Pretty much.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But then they resolved their stuff because they had same thing with Encanto.
Hmm.
Like that too. It was a lot of um therapist visits after that for that family. I liked Encanto too.
Oh, and
Um from
Contos.
from Pixar, I'm really huge fan of Inside Out. I really love that movie. Did you know that if they removed all the scenes with the emotions, the movie would only be 15 minutes long?
Really?
Yeah, that's how much footage Riley's in.
Wow. Because we just had the voice of Baby Riley, which was Mary Gibbs last
Mary Gibbs.
episode. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. They used archived footage for that.
That's pretty cool.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I'm an editor on Wikipedia, and I'm the one that created her wiki page. So so if you go to her wiki page, like that's all there because I put it there. It still has to get approved. Like you have to have. So everybody's like, oh, it's Wikipedia. You can't trust that. Anybody can write it. Yeah, anybody can write anything they want. Like that's what books are. It's just with Wikipedia, you have to cite your sources on everything. That's why when you go to the bottom, if you go to the COVID-19 page, there's like 500 sources at the bottom. Because if you say something on there, you need to cite where you got that information from so it can be proven. So any page, you need to cite your source. And then you say what changes you made. You have to learn how to, it's kind of like doing HTML coding. Not really, but there's a lot of coding that you have to do. It's not just like edit and you just write in your own stuff. You got to use like symbols and stuff like that to add in links so that it all hyperlinks properly and stuff. Like
Actually,
that's how it is.
I've stolen the bibliographies from Wikipedia when
Mhm.
I'm feeling lazy in grad school. I just steal their bibliographies and give them as mine. That's not allowed. Like it's still a bibliography. So
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
as long as I don't steal their writing, that's plagiarism. But stealing somebody's bibliography completely allowed.
yeah.
Anyone watching?
I added a page. Okay, so this book was I had two forwards written for it by two different Disney Imagineers,
Mhm,
Imagineer Terry Hardin and Imagineer Rolly Crump, who worked on the Haunted Mansion, Tiki Room, and Small World. Terry
mhm,
worked on tons. Like there's tons. If you go to my website, you go down just a little bit and there's a link to her bio. It's like a condensed biography about her, all the movies that she's worked on. She puppeteered. She was Baby's Arms and Dinosaurs and Stay Puft Marshmallow Man's Face and Ghostbusters and all sorts of stuff. Like she's done. And so I made this huge list. Well, I copied it over to her Wikipedia page because her wiki page was very lacking. And I copied it all over and they removed the whole thing, even though I cited sources. You can't copy other things. That's me. Like I wrote that and I actually copied it from my Word document, not from the website, because it will copy over any of the edits, like hyperlinks and stuff. So they're like, oh, you have to email for approval. Like you have to get approval from the author. Okay. So I went to my email address and emailed my Disney email address for approval. Then I emailed myself back. Then I emailed it to Wikipedia. And then they're like, thank you. And then I was able to put it all back. I was like, that's so weird. But yeah, so if you look up any of the stuff written on her page and you put it in Google, it will list it on Wikipedia and on my website. And be like, that website copied Wiki. No, it's the other way around. I copied it for Wikipedia. I was actually writing about Paul Rudd because I was in my Marvel document. I'm writing. I have it. Each section has its own Word document. Otherwise, it takes forever to load and save and stuff because they're
mhm,
so long. Like Marvel right now is 123 pages,
mhm.
and I was writing about the actors in the MCU who have also been on Broadway. And
Has he?
yeah, Paul Rudd's four things on Broadway. Um, it's not on his Wikipedia page. So I wrote if you go to Paul Rudd's filmography, there's a section for stage because a lot of the people actors have stage and it'll say what theater they're at, stuff like
Oh, we paused again.
that. So I look news articles or playbills that had him listed being in those plays and the years and stuff, the dates, so that I could put it on Wikipedia and then have it referenced. And I just did that like a week ago, and I'm proud of it.
I have to tell you my embarrassing Paul Rudd story. I've told it on other shows, but I'll have to tell you my after this show. It's really horrible. But let's get to talking about a project that you're working on that also Jerry is here for. I'm sure Jerry's ever watching, making sure we.
He doesn't have time to like email us back, but he can watch live recordings. Okay. So right now, I'm sure, did Mary talk about this in hers?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about who she is.
Okay, so because I met Jerry and he does like thousands of things all the time, he started an audio drama show called Heroes of Extinction. And it's basically like listening to like a 1940s radio show, but it's comic book themed. So there's different voice actors, sound effects, music, dun dun dun, like all sorts of cool things. There's a narrator and everything. So I'm one of the actors in it. I do different characters. My main one that they play clips of at conventions and stuff is the Repzilliard, which is a mutant lizard. So there's audio of that, and I have a deep, creepy voice for that lizard creature. But I also do his human form too, and he's a college student. But and then I do like extra little characters here and there when needed, and then I design the pins and stickers. I mean, I didn't design them; I took the artwork that they had for them. But we're just redoing the logo right now, anyway. But
is there anything?
The classic Heroes of Extinction logo as a pin for people who want it.
I know. I've seen the t-shirts and the pins, and I'm like, I want one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fun project. And then there's lots of others that Jerry's doing too, like tons of other audio dramas. Joshua did an amazing voice as the lizard beast.
He's also in Dark Park.
I'm also in Dark Park. Yeah, I didn't even know. I just read the lines. I just did the recordings, and then I sent them to him, and then I didn't know it was for Dark Park. But there's quite a few projects that we're working on right now, and there's so many people that are getting involved with this. I mean, just with Heroes of Extinction, I'm in charge of doing the IMDb pages, adding the actors to the episodes and stuff. But if you go there, you can see like Isaac Singleton Jr., who was in Pirates of the Caribbean, and Mandalorian season 2, and he's the voice of Thanos in the video games and Avengers series and stuff. And Mary Gibbs is in it.
I don't think we've revealed Isaac yet, have we? I don't think we have.
Yeah, it's on IMDb.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Cool. Yeah,
and it's on his Wikipedia page.
Ooh,
because I put it there.
I was wondering about that because people have been like, "Who's in it?" And I'm like, I don't know who I can say. Like
all of them, because we've talked on panels, and he's been sitting there on the panels doing this talk. So if you go to Mary Gibbs wiki page, there's a group of us from our panel. Very cool. Yeah. What John Provost, he played Timmy in the Old Lassie series. Is it Michael Gray from the Shazam series? He played Billy Batson in the 70s.
Yeah.
Eric Walker, who was in the Ewok movies. C. Andrew Nelson, who was Darth Vader for 12 years and has clocked more hours in the suit than any other actor. He's the narrator, so he's on every episode.
When you mentioned being in that commercial, I was just wondering if Drew was the one that was in that commercial.
Which commercial?
You mentioned trying to get into the commercial as
on Pirates Lair on Tom Sawyer Island.
Yeah,
no, it's one of those promo things for Disneyland, like come to Disneyland, and they show kids running around the island.
Okay.
It wasn't like an actor was there or anything.
I know
actually the only celebrity that I have seen in Disneyland is Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Oh.
Yeah, and I didn't even know it was him because had never watched it. I had heard the name, but like I couldn't pick him out in a lineup. I didn't know what he looked like. But my friend was with me, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, it's Dog the Bounty Hunter and his sons." What? I know that name. I didn't know what he looked like though. But we saw him. Yeah. He was walking by us when we were on Astro Orbiter, which was probably the last time I was on that in 2013 because it's so boring. So boring. It's got an interesting history though. I had to write about it for Jerry's magazine. Oh yeah, I'm also on the podcast Do You Like Fun Facts? And then I talk about each attraction for Jerry on his themeparkology.com, and then you can listen to the streaming episodes. And he's just about to put up season 2, right? Because I spent so many months recording it. I started in December and I finished months later because I didn't want to just read what I had. Like, I wanted more stuff. So I did a lot more research and writing before I recorded my episodes. But season 2 is I don't know if I can say this. I'm gonna say it anyway. Season 2 is based on Fantasyland. So it's the Fantasyland attractions, but also the movies that they're based on. So attraction and movie fun facts for season 2.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Is Zippity Doodah included? Because I know there's been a big like canceled kind of thing.
In Fantasyland, the Zippity Doodah song used to play on the carousel as a Calliope piece of music, and they don't play it anymore.
Oh, I can imagine.
They stopped, I want to say 2018, 19. Recently. It was recently. It might have been after 2020. I can't remember. I wrote it down. I talked about it. I don't remember what the year it happened at. And now Splash Mountain's getting redone.
I know. I heard they were trying to cancel it because of the attachment to
Song of the South, which is weird because Splash Mountain is based on the animated segments of Song of the South, not the live action segments. It's all the animated segments, and the animated segments they're all based on the book Song of the South, and all the stories in Song of the South, the book, were stories that the slaves would retell in song and story because they didn't write. There was no books that the slaves were able to publish. So they would retell stories, it was all word of mouth. And so somebody wrote them all down and put them in a book. And then they ended up in the movie. And then now there's a ride based on, the history that was, retold by the slaves. And now they're taking it out. So it's just all canceling history. Cancel history.
We hate history. Go away.
I mean, I can understand because the movie's set in
Jim Crow era.
Yeah, but it's it was after the Civil War. What's that called? Oh,
I'm a history major too.
Because it was before, it was around the time the Democrats made the Jim Crow laws, which is why Jim Crow was renamed Dandy Crow and Dumbo, because he was named Jim Crow because of the laws. And so when they re-released it later, they changed his
Reconstruction.
name. Reconstruction era, yes.
Yeah.
They changed his name to Dandy Crow. But yeah, it was set in that time. So like the people in the movie they're not slaves in the movie. They're just workers that work on plantations. Like they're just they live there and they're field hands is what they are. But people are bothered by it.
People be
Whoopi Goldberg wants them to release it. I have it on DVD. I bought it on eBay. You can buy it on eBay. Somebody converted it from Laserdisc over because it was released on Laserdisc, I believe, and that's how it was converted.
It's been so many years since I've seen that movie. I've like absolutely. I think that's really the case for everybody. There's been so many years that you've seen it. You're like, what was in it? Oh, it's racist. Okay, canceled.
Well, what people say is racist about it was that it's stereotypical of Uncle Remus was actually based off of 2 real people that the author knew. So the author, I can't remember his name right now. He was a redheaded white guy, but he was a bastard child. So he was born, his mother had him out of wedlock, which is a no-no back in the 1800s. So he lived with the slaves in their house. And so he made friends with all of them and lived with them and worked with them. And he's the one that wrote the stories and based Uncle Remus off of 2 actual people that he knew. And that's what people get offended by. He was only 45 when he did that movie, Uncle Remus.
Really?
Yeah. James Baskett, I think his name is.
I feel like I've got time now.
And so Walt Disney put in for an honorary Academy Award for him, and he got one. I believe he was the first black actor to get an Academy Award. It wasn't an official one handed out during the Academy Awards, but he got one. So
Good for him.
fun facts.
Fun facts. Before we wrap up, because we're going over it, but this is everything. There's just so much interesting. Man. Yeah.
This is me for 3 days at the D23 Expo from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. 3 days in a row, standing there next to my table.
The whole Heroes of Extinction family needs to go to Disneyland together, and we're just going to follow you around.
Yes, and then if Disney hears me, they'll kick me out. They don't like people giving tours, even if you're doing it for free for family or friends, and you're just telling them a history. They want to be able to charge people. If you have 6 people and you do the tour where you have your own personal guide, it's like a couple grand. You have to have a minimum of 6 people, and it's like 4 hours or something. Yeah,
just quietly do it.
Some of them they spread misinformation though, because like they'll tell you that the crest on the castle on Sleeping Beauty Castle is the Walt Disney family crest. It's 3 lions. That's not the Disney family crest. If you can even Google Disney family crest and it'll pop up 3 fleur-de-lis, which is a stylized tulip, I believe, and 3 of them in a row across the coat of arms. You could go into the heraldry shop that was right inside Fantasyland to the right, which is gone now. You could buy swords and stuff in there, but you could have a printout of the Disney family crest. They had it sitting right there in a frame, 3 fleur-de-lis, not 3 lions. 3 lions was the crest for England.
Oh.
Yeah, you can even, if you ever see the England transportation trucks like on the freeway, the semis, England, and it has that coat of arms that you see above the castle. It was just
it's a rampant lion. Okay.
It was just 3 lions like this, but it's actually Disney is 3 fleur-de-lis in a row like this. But it just started at some point and kept getting spread around. And I mean, you can even Google the crest on the castle, and it'll be like, "That's the Disney family crest." It's not.
That's Cinderella's castle, though, isn't it?
Sleeping Beauty.
Sleeping Beauty. Okay.
For England, yeah, because she's English. So, Cinderella's in Florida.
Ah, that's right. Okay. I don't go to Disneyland enough to know these things.
You need to go. Get my book and go back. You can read about all the fun facts, which 3,700 of them in this one.
And then I'll get it signed.
Yes.
Very cool. I have had so much fun. Hopefully we're going to have you on soon again, because I cannot wait when all this comes out in a couple months. Right, Jerry? Right? I know you're listening. Actually, before we go, you want to give a little bit of a sneak peek or lowdown on what character is going to be in the Heroes of Extinction without kind of
my character?
Much? Yeah.
The Repzilliard?
Yeah.
What do you want me to talk about who he is, or
who is he real quick?
So he's only in for a brief time because he's a mutant lizard that used to be a human and now he's not. And then the heroes have to battle him. And so then I get the battle. I didn't know I was battling when I was recording the lines though, because I wasn't.
And you said he's a human. Is he like a bro?
He was a human. Dude? Yeah, I was Keith. My human name is Keith, and that's actually on IMDb. It's Keith, and then Repzilliard. I'll say this because they keep playing it at the conventions. He forgets something at his dorm, and he's like, "Hey guys, I'll catch up with you later. I forgot something." That's not how I sound, but that's what I say. And then I all of a sudden disappear, and then it cuts to later on the story down the line, and then I reappear as this mutant lizard.
Very cool.
And then I also play like a cop, a armored truck driver, a lab assistant, some random characters,
different voices, different accents.
Yeah, different stuff.
Very cool.
Yeah,
I can't wait to hear it. Hopefully you guys catch up and check us out or check out Joshua's voices, his books. I've put the link for his website in the chat, and I'll do it again real quick so that everyone can find it. And then hopefully we'll be hearing from you again in a couple months when it releases.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, if anybody gets my book, in the memo section, just say who you want me to sign it to.
Okay.
Personalize it to. So if you order one, you can just say, "Oh, sign it to Bob," and then when I fill it out, I'll be like, "To Bob, have fun in Disneyland." No, I'll say something else, but I'll sign it to Bob, and then I sign it and date it and stuff, and then I ship it out. So
very cool. And anything else? Any other places or links or anything else you want to?
all of my stuff
promote?
is on that website, which is why I created it, because you go there and it links out to like my audios, all the podcast interviews I've been on, my magazine articles I've done for Theme Parkology magazine, the DVDs, the stuff with Tinkerbell's all on my website too, which is weird that I stay busy all the time. It just takes up a lot of time to do all this stuff.
When is the you don't know the book when that's coming out? Your last book?
No, it just depends on right now. Up until 2 weeks ago, I was working 11 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and 8 hours on Saturday. So my only day off was Sunday, and that was the only time I could sit down and write. But I also have a wife, and I have to like pay attention to her and stuff because she likes when I talk to her and
What?
we eat dinner and stuff, and be like, "Hey, how are you? How was your week? I haven't been here. I'm here for dinner and sleeping, but so I'm just gone a lot during the day." Yeah, but I write whenever I can, and that's why I'm just 2022. The movies are only going to be through 2022. I'm trying to slam and get Marvel done so I can just finish that document. I'm almost done with the Princess document, which, by the way, has an actual section in the Pocahontas one in the movie of the real history of Pocahontas. So it's the real stuff. I actually found is a PDF of a book that was written by Jamestown settler. It was his like diary, his journal, and so he actually wrote about Pocahontas, who was an 11-year-old girl at the time, 11 to 12. They don't know for sure, but yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, this book's really cool. And so then I like say where I got this information from and this crazy stuff. And I have one of my art teacher from the 90s said that she would review that section for me because she's Native American and is on the tribal council for her tribe. So she's going to write a little thing about it in the beginning. Cause I was like, hey, could you, preview this for me for like any insensitivity?
Oh, we paused again. Sorry.
Like, get offended. What?
Oh, we paused again. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was like, can you review this? Cause I don't want anybody to get offended by anything in here. Like there's nothing like bad in it, but just make sure that it's cool.
And I'm sure you've met Irene Bedard because I met her.
Yeah. She was here at MouseCon. Yeah. I didn't get a photo with her, weirdly enough. And when I met Karen Daughtry from Mary Poppins, she played Jane Banks. I didn't get a photo with her or with Tommy Kirk from Old Yeller and Swiss Family Robinson. And he was the older brother. I didn't get a picture with him either. And I'm like, dang it, I forgot. And he just passed away last year, I believe. And the week of MouseCon, Kevin Corcoran, the one who played his younger brother in Old Yeller and Swiss Family Robinson in 5 Disney movies, actually, died the week of MouseCon that he was here. I'm like, oh my gosh, this has got to be so tough for him talking about all these movies he was in with Kevin, and he just passed away this week. But I didn't get a photo with him either.
Seems like a sweet memento to someone with your work, though.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I've met so many people. Oh, so many animators, and I had dinner with the director of Mulan, Tony Bancroft.
When you're done, that needs to be your next memo, like your memoir.
Yeah. Well, if you go to my website, there's a tab on there for like pictures, and you can see pictures of me with like when I met Jim Cummings, the voice of Darkwing Duck and Winnie the Pooh and Tigger and Razul and Red Firefly and 160 other Disney characters. I met him at the D23 Expo and so many people. It's fun. It's fun to just meet everybody.
Very cool.
I'll just talk for hours. So
we will. In fact, part 2 will probably be in a couple months and do this again. Thank you so much, Joshua.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. And I'm sure you said this was your first. Patricia, thank you for joining too. Patricia, the author of
Hi.
the upcoming.
We're friends on Facebook.
We are definitely. She's been so
Mhm.
much fun. I have her on speed dial at this point because
Nice.
she's so cool. Thank you so much for this episode. I have had so much fun. I will hopefully talk to you soon. Thank you everyone for joining us. We will be back next week. I'm not entirely sure who's going, possibly Patricia. But join us next week and have a great day, everyone.
Bye.